In this video, we'll be discussing the 5-number summary and the Boxplot as two tools that we can use in exploratory data analysis. Exploratory data analysis seeks to summarize data sets in a way that we can really explore, strangely enough, what's going on inside of the data. Often this involves visual methods so that it's easier to see and conglomerate all of the information from the data set in a way that we can easily understand, though it can also incorporate some different calculated statistics and numbers. One of the most common ways that I look at data for the first time, in addition to things like scatter plots and histograms and frequency plots, is the use of a box plot or a box and whisker plot, and we're going to talk about making one of those today. A box plot can be used graphically to represent the data set, and it's so handy because it's A, so simple, but B, so descriptive. It's like one of those things that when you see it, it may not look all that interesting, but from somebody who uses them fairly often, they can actually tell you an immense amount about the underlying shape of a data set with just a few observations. Boxplots involves 5 specific values. The first is the minimum, then the first quartile, the second quartile or the median, the third quartile, and the maximum. And these 5 values, called the 5-number summary, are what we use when we plot a box plot. Now, the procedure for actually plotting a box plot starts with calculating those 5 numbers. So that's kind of the data that we're going to use to create the plot. Then we're going to draw a horizontal axis, so that just a number line. Step 2 is draw a number line, and make sure your number line, that's just a line with numbers along it, little arrow on each end, has the minimum and maximum values incorporated with it. Then we're going to draw a box. So that's going to be the box from our box plot. Now the box, it's going to look like a rectangle, but the vertical sides, the ends of the box, are going to go on Q1, and then draw the box all the way out to Q3. So that's our box, and then we're going to draw a line in the middle of the box. That line goes at the median. For the last step, once we have our box drawn, we're going to draw a horizontal line from the minimum value all the way to the end of the box, the end right in the middle, and then from the maximum value to the end of the box. So we're going to have a box, it's going to have a line in the middle, and then we're going to have a line going out to the max and a line going down to the minimum. So let's give this a shot. Recall the BOD dataset that we worked with previously. We've got this data. Now we need to calculate the 5-number summary. So you can pause right now, calculate the 5-number summary. Remember what the 5-number summary is, the minimum, Q1, Q2, Q3, the maximum, and calculate that. Go on and give that a shot if you want some practice. Pause the video and try that. All right, coming back. We get the minimum, smallest number is 8.3, Q1 is 10.3, the median Q2 is 16, Q3 is 19.8, and the maximum is 29.5. The box plot, we draw our number line, make sure the maximum and the minimum can fit on here. Sorry, my computer didn't do a very good job. And then we plot on, we plot on there the box that goes through Q1 and Q3. This is our box that we have. Then we draw a vertical line at the median, and then we draw a horizontal line out to the maximum and a horizontal line down to the minimum. This is how we make a box plot. This is all that's involved. Now when I'm doing this by hand, one thing that I'll tend to add on to here that's also not seen on my computer output is I will add on a little line over each of these numbers. So what I'll do is I'll write a little line here and then write min equals whatever the minimum is. Then a little line Q1 equals whatever Q1 is. Little line median equals whatever the median is. Little line Q3 equals whatever Q3 is, and a little line max equals whatever the maximum is. Just so that we can have that plotted out here. It makes it kind of handy to be able to quickly identify, oh yeah, you calculated all those correctly when grading. And it's a good double check for you to make sure you don't make any dumb mistakes. For instance, if Q1 was 14 and you drew a little line and said Q1 equals 14 and you looked down and said, oh, that looks more like 11 to me, that would be a good mental double check of, oh crap, this vertical line on the end of the box should be at Q1. Now the computer output has these dotted lines. They don't have to be dotted. Typically I just draw a line, solid line, out to the minimum and the maximum. This is a quick aside, but note that the boxplot can incorporate outliers. Some boxplots do. For our class, we're not going to worry about this. So you do need to know how to calculate an outlier, but we're not going to worry about including them in plots. So don't worry about that. All right, so we've got this data set. Go on and pause the video and give a try to constructing a boxplot for this data set. All right, coming back, you find your 5-number summary. Now the first step of doing that, finding your quartiles, is to put the data in order. Don't forget you have to put the data in order when you're doing the calculation. Remember Q1, I should have C equals here, because remember this calculation is for the position, C. So this calculation, we find the third position, so 1, 2, 3, the third position. That number is 47, so Q1 is 47. Similarly, Q3, the 8th position, that's 164. The median, we now need the median. We get the whole number 5, so remember that's the Cth and C plus 1th position. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's C and the C plus 1th position. So the median is going to be between 78 and 89. 78 plus 89 divided by 2 gives us 83.5. And we can pretty quickly and easily find the minimum and maximum. Minimum's 30, maximum's 296. So with this information, we now draw the plot. We start by drawing the number line, making sure that 30 and 296 are on there. We draw our box that goes through Q1 and Q3, draw the vertical line at the median, and then 2 horizontal lines out to the minimum and the maximum. And hopefully our box plot looks something like this. Now this video was way shorter than a lot of the other videos we have, but this is the end of chapter 3, talking about our numerical summaries of data and then closing out with a plot that depends on those numerical summaries. Specifically, it depends on Q1, Q2, and Q3. So we couldn't talk about the box plot until we talked about how we calculate quartiles, which required calculating percentiles. So that's why it's in this chapter instead of in the previous chapter. Don't forget, after you do this, go do your journal. So once you're done with this video, pause, go do your journal, or stop the video, go do your journal, so that you don't forget to do your chapter 3 journal. Now this is the end of the content that will be on your first exam. So make sure you're studying using the homework application for chapters 2 and 3. Make sure you're creating flip cards for maybe chapters 15 and chapter 1, or however you best study your kind of vocabulary and terminology stuff. Please do reach out if you have any questions as you're preparing for the first exam. And not only will this material be on the first exam, but much of this material will be repeated throughout the course. And all of this material is fair game for the final exam, so as you're preparing for the first and final exam. But after that, we'll be moving on to chapter 4, which will be the first chapter that will be possible content for exam 2. So that'll be probability and counting rules, sample spaces, probability, addition rules, multiplication rules, and counting rules, strangely enough.